In all planes, the feet should be shoulder-width apart and pointed straight ahead. The athlete begins by standing on top of the box. Clients new to plyometric training should start with stepping off the box to stabilization and progress to jumping off the box. Both feet should drop to the floor simultaneously. Toes and knees must remain pointed straight. Emphasis should be placed on landing softly. Good technique begins with instructing the client on landing, absorbing, catching mechanics, and progressing the program only when form mastery is exhibited. The client must be instructed about ground contact since the priority is force absorption to reduce impact and joint wear and tear. This can be cued by instructing the client to land as quietly as possible. At the landing, the ankles, knees, and hips should be flexed and held in this position for 3 to 5 seconds. Starting in the sagittal plane, the exercise can be progressed to the client performing the box jump down to stabilization in the frontal and transverse plane. It is important to watch for the heel slap, which occurs when there is a lack of awareness or effort to keep the heel of the foot from striking the ground hard and causing a loud noise on landing. This must be addressed before the athlete can progress even to other planes of motion. As the exercises become more dynamic, proper alignment and landing mechanics are even more important to maximize force production and prevent injury. With hips and feet in proper alignment, the client squats slightly, then jumps up, bringing both knees toward the chest, attempting to have the thighs parallel with the ground. The landing should be soft, keeping the feet, knees, and hips pointed straight ahead. The jump should remain in a small area so there is no excessive body movement. Both feet should drop to the floor simultaneously, with toes and knees remaining pointed straight. As both feet touch the floor and the ankles, knees, and hips are flexed, the athlete immediately jumps up, bringing both knees towards the chest, attempting to have the thighs parallel with the ground. The landing should be soft, keeping the feet, knees, and hips pointed straight ahead. Starting in the sagittal plane, the exercise can be progressed to the client performing the jump down to stabilization in the frontal and transverse plane. Emphasis in this level should be on minimizing ground contact time while maintaining all postural and landing considerations from the previous levels of the box jump down with stabilization and tuck jump. The focus in this level should be to move in the full spectrum of velocities, planes, and directions, and sport-related patterns to fully integrate the weight room to playing field. Developing a systematic plan to advance individuals towards higher intensity drills once they demonstrate technique, math, and adequately tolerate jump landing forces will help to increase athleticism. All plyometric stabilization exercises involve little joint motion. The client begins by standing with feet shoulder-width apart and pointed straight ahead. Squatting slightly as if sitting in a chair, the client jumps forward as far as can be controlled. The landing must be soft, maintaining flexion in the knees and hips and not collapsing to the ground. Optimal postural alignment must be held for 3 to 5 seconds. Head position and upper extremity alignment should also be taken into consideration, using cues like nose over toes or chest over knees at the bottom of the eccentric loading phase. The client then returns to the start and repeats the exercise 5 to 8 times. The client can progress from the sagittal plane to the frontal and transverse planes as long as proper alignment and stabilization can be maintained. Arm swing must be taught because it is key to potentiating power. Arms need to be loaded back in hyperextension early and released into flexion with maximum effort. All alignment and movements are performed the same as the multiplanar jump with stabilization, but now all jumps are completed at a medium pace. Plyometric strength exercises involve more dynamic, eccentric, and concentric movement through a full range of motion. The client begins by standing with feet shoulder-width apart and pointed straight ahead. Squatting slightly as if sitting in a chair, the client jumps forward as far as can be controlled with a soft landing. The client will have a slight pause in the landing before taking off again. The client completes 8 to 10 jumps. Proper alignment must be maintained between the lumbo-pelvic hip complex and the knees to prevent injury. The client can progress from the sagittal plane to the frontal plane and transverse planes as long as proper alignment and stabilization can be maintained. Plyometric power exercises involve the entire muscle action spectrum and contraction velocity spectrum used during integrated functional movements. The client begins standing with feet shoulder width apart and pointed straight ahead. The client jumps with 2 feet front to back, side to side, or in a diagonal pattern over lines, cones, or hurdles. Again, landing must remain soft and the client must maintain optimal alignment with short ground contact times. This exercise should be completed as quickly as the client can move while still under control. The exercise can be progressed to be done as a 1-foot hop front to back, side to side, or in a diagonal pattern while still maintaining optimal postural alignment.